The way I got into the IT field was really by accident. I actually founded an IT company. I had met several developers who were very talented. One of them went on to write the help desk system for E-Trade. You might have heard of that company. The other one is currently the head of global software development for PNC Bank, and he happens to be my stepbrother. And I put that company together, and really I didn't have any interest in technology at that time. This is back in 1991, but I did not want to be the dumbest guy in the room. These guys were crazy smart, so I taught it to myself. So all those certifications I have, self-taught, and all the experience that I had were really the hard way. I wish at times I probably would have taken an easier route, however I didn't go that way. But I'm going to give you some more career advice later in the presentation, but let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. This is a guy. This is the person we have to thank for this wonderful word that we have to run around on all day long going, what is the cloud? What is the cloud? What is the cloud? It's this gentleman right here. In was it, what did I put up there, 97? At the University of Texas. He gave this speech in Dallas, and this was his actual quote. And out of that, the word cloud came out, and it started becoming part of the vernacular. Of course, no one was paying attention back then because everybody in the world was making themselves millions of dollars in the dot-com boom. And you know, remember when your next door neighbor was like a brilliant stock trader and he'd come out on the street and tell you all the time how much money he was making? Maybe you older people do. Yeah. Wonder how he's talking now. The cloud and .com are very similar. At the time, in the 90s, if you were a company and you didn't end your name in .com, then you weren't a viable enterprise, right? Whether you were a brick and mortar company, you had to be a .com. Whether you were a technology company, you had to be a .com. I'm sure those startup companies that put their name on a stadium in Florida for $27 million and went out of business 9 months later probably thought that was a great marketing idea, but .com wasn't all that. I'm sure you see a lot of these things. This is the most important part, right? This is the technology curve. You see this for everything. So we have a technology trigger, various types of things we go through, SaaS integration, cloud computing, bursting, so on and so forth. You get up into here into hybrids and all that other stuff. All this part over here, no one's really paying attention to it. When I say no one, I mean the people who are actually going to spend money on it. It's really just happening inside of universities, large corporations with large R&D budgets, and the rest of us are just like, whatever. When all this was happening, all my vendors who couldn't make it today because flights from Southwest weren't flying out of Dallas, so IBM sends their apologies. They were telling us about managed services. They're like, managed services, that's the future. Then we get into this peak of expectations. This is when it gets too good to be true. But then, like all things in life, we get into the trough of disillusionment, the reality of it. And we're going to talk a lot about that reality today when we talk about the how. Because it's great when you get the question why right, but then you have to actually go to work. And when you go to work and the how starts coming out, it never works like it's supposed to work. You never have enough money, you never have enough time, you never have enough people, and all the assumptions that you made are constantly under attack because the marketplace, your client, and their business are constantly changing. And it's about the only thing that you can really count upon. So here we are now, we're kind of in the slope of enlightenment, and that's why you see it and hear it all the time. I mean, cloud computing is so ubiquitous, it's just almost nauseating, and I'm actually going to show you one of those nauseating things. Trademarks. I ran a Google search yesterday, 29 million hits for the word cloud computing. That is absurd. What's more absurd is that no one can own that word. my number one partner, Dell, actually tried to trademark the term, but the U.S. Patent Office said, I don't think so. And they denied the patent. So otherwise, you'd be saying Dell Cloud. I guess it would become like Kleenex at some point in time. Neologism. This is what the cloud is. It's a neologism. We take a word that means something completely different to every single person that's using it. Forrester Research is also not very popular of this particular word. Cloud washing, I believe, is the terminology that they use for it. I mean, it's everywhere. Every piece of literature I get from every single vendor, it's cloud, 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 cloud. Bakery software, no kidding, cloud. It used to just run on a PC, but now because they can run it through a browser, they call it a cloud application. So that became the definition of cloud. Again, a neologism. And my favorite one is P.T. Barnum. Now, he didn't know anything about the cloud. For those of you who don't know who P.T. Barnum was, he at one time had the greatest show on earth, the P.T. Barnum Circus, and that's his quote right there. And if you can shoot at the sun, you may hit a star. He's probably going a little far. We just need to make it to the cloud. For those of you who are students of history, computing history, you know, obviously IBM did not create the computer in 1959, but what they did do is they created a commercial computer. This computer here, and actually this is IBM's website, IBM 100. You can go up there and you can actually watch an entire video about this. But back then, the value of this particular product was, one, it had no vacuum tubes in it. They were under pressure from a company out of France called Machine Bull. I know it's a common name to you right now because many of you are probably running on Machine Bull's operating system or stuff. You never heard of it, right? Isn't that the great thing about technology? What was hot today won't even be in existence tomorrow. But in 1959, there they are selling it for $2,500 a month. They're renting this space. So is cloud computing really that new? Isn't that the same thing that we're talking about now? The same thing that your questions were about? We're going to rent some resources, some CPU, some memory, some storage, some bandwidth. We're going to use it when we need it, do the work that we need to do, get the answers that we need to have. I think these guys had it quite a while ago. But yet we still use it today. So we're taking old ideas from the past, we're wrapping them up in a nice, colorful, beautiful, wonderful word, and we're calling it cloud. So in the Who, we're going to talk about the cloud providers. Now, obviously, I can't put every possible cloud provider in the world up on the screen, but see, these are some of the biggies. So we got our Google and Sun and IBM. Then we got Amazon Web Services, which kind of became a household name. Then we got platforms like VMC, storage providers like EMC or VMware, and then EMC owns VMware. We have Microsoft, of course. We have applications like Salesforce.com, Yahoo's developer network, and so on. So there's all kinds of different types of cloud providers. And how you really define, back to the neologism, you really define what cloud is by where you fall in the OSI model. Now, if you happen to be a visitor here and you're a business person, and I thank you for attending today, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, so I had to make it really simple. The OSI model is all about pizza. Okay? So it's the pizza delivery network to starving presentation attendees. That's basically what the OSI model is all about. Once you have that down, you can go out today with the curriculum that your leaders in the department have come out with, and you could actually go pass your Network Plus exam because, quite frankly, it's a lot harder than the Microsoft certifications. But in reality, what we're talking about are these different layers of the model. So depending on where your particular application, where your particular piece of hardware, where your particular service lies, is going to determine in your mind where are you going to position it. So obviously, if you're a reseller of software and you're at the application layer, then you think everything is about applications. And if you happen to be Cisco and you're at the network and the transport layer, you're going to be thinking everything is about network. If you happen to be AT&T or Paytech or Verizon, Sprint or any other telecom company, Global Crossing, Level 3, EXO, Logix, or any of the 10 different companies we represent, you're here. If you happen to be a company like RSA Security, everybody who processes payroll in America, Wells Fargo is the largest user of RSA encryption security in the world. They give out these little key fobs that generate a password, ID, and it changes about every few minutes. And you use that to log into your account so you can send in payroll. And that's how I pay my employees. Oh, I don't actually do it, but that's how they get paid. So here's our providers. I threw in some people here that you don't know because I want to tell you some really interesting stories. Salesforce.com, you probably have heard of them. They're the largest CRM application in the world. So, I mean, they're pretty much the gold standard. They're the Facebook of CRM. They're also the most expensive. Down here you have Intuit, smaller companies. QuickBooks, it's the gold standard in accounting for smaller organizations. They have a product called QuickBooks Online. Works great. You need basic accounting, it's a place to go. If you're a more sophisticated company, I have a $100 million specialty petrochemical manufacturer client of mine that's headquartered out of Mumbai, India. So we host their email for them globally since 2002. So I always love saying I have a client from India. And we also support all their infrastructure here in the United States. They run Oracle, and I'm going to tell you an interesting story about Oracle and Rackspace later on in the presentation. Then you have Google, of course, Google Apps. If you're a nonprofit organization, your church, Google Apps is free to you. You can get the full suite of products, which costs everybody else about $50. Google Apps also includes other things like Postini antivirus, which is what we use for our clients. So yeah, you know, you do your spam filtering in the cloud, anti-spam, antivirus, anti-malware, all those things. This is Microsoft's actual logo right here for their cloud power. If you go up there, they'll talk about the 3 different aspects that they view the cloud. Obviously, they have applications, but then they have the business intelligence level of it, and then they have the back-end server platform with their Hyper-V and their Azure platform, which is going to be released.